is The Shadow, Jaden Perumena, and I've been standing in for Kassim Kayira. Have we lost him?
Looks like it.
Looks like we've lost him. While we wait for him to reconnect, for those who are new to the program, our brothers from South Africa, this is our usual weekly program every Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom. So it will be plus or a few hours wherever you are. It's a non-partisan program where we share ideas with brothers and sisters. We've hosted topics ranging from bullying in schools. We have hosted programs about development back home. And in the past, we've touched things like identity, which is very important to us here in the United Kingdom, how we identify yourself. But today, we're going back to the basics of every human right. And I'll ask Sheikh Kassim Kayira to introduce the topic for today.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Mr. Jaden. And it's going to be an interesting double-headed presentation from Kampala and from Newcastle. And we are going out across the world, streaming live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom, where we are discussing giving back. We are starting the holy month of Ramadan come Thursday, inshallah, since the moon has not been sighted. And therefore, to the Muslim brethren, we wish you a very happy and prosperous Ramadan, accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of it. May I use this opportunity as well to welcome a new group of followers that is joining us from all the way from Zanzibar, South Africa, where the Uganda Muslim community in South Africa is joined us now and is going to be part of our conversations as we go on. So tonight we are talking about giving back and why give back. During Ramadan, and many people embark on doing projects that are charitable projects that are aimed at getting Allah's rewards, but also making a difference in the communities. Many of the people, nearly everyone in the diaspora at least tries to do something back home, either individually or as a group, to try to make a difference, especially when you move away from home. The expectation is that you've gone away, you've gone to greener pastures, you should be sharing the hay that you've got from the greener pastures. So tonight, we will be intending to have you into the conversation, telling us about the things that you have been doing wherever you are, things that have made a difference. Is it a borehole that you dug for a community, for example, that helped people get access to clean water? How much of a difference did that make? Is that something that is ongoing? Probably it's a mosque, probably it's an orphanage that you've built, probably you're paying school fees for children in schools. And it might just be probably you've just decided to do something that is unusual. You've taken sewing machines, for example, to help ladies or women in the villages to be able to empower themselves with new skills. Anything that you have done, probably you've dug a dam that is being used by the community. All of that is going to be in tonight's conversation. And we are giving you the microphone tonight because it is about you. It's about the things that you have done. And that's where me and Jaden now will be trying to write. Just to remind you, we are live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected. And we shall be on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube, where we are already streaming live. Welcome to the conversation. Quite a number of people have already joined us and even more coming on. We'll be interested to hear actually what you've been able to do. And I'll just go straight to the people. Jaden, starting with you, probably might just provide a sort of an insight. Jaden, have you, given back to the community? Have you been involved in any project?
Thank you very much for that inspiring introduction to the topic. But before I dive into that, I would like to welcome our brothers from South Africa with a quote from the great statesman. We all know the late father of the nation, Madiba,
Yes.
the late Nelson Mandela. And this is what he said about giving. There can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to help others without expecting anything back. So that is the basis of giving. You give without expecting anything back from whoever is receiving it. Now, there's a joy about giving. It brings happiness to whoever is receiving the gift. There may be in a position where they cannot afford or cannot meet some of the basic requirements of life. Now, my experience of giving came totally by chance. I was in Uganda, I think it was 2018 or 2019, and I was traveling from Kampala to Jinja, and this was on a Friday. Now, the intention was to have my Friday prayers in Jinja town, but the way Allah planned it was that the time was faster than myself. And I found myself in a small rural town in Buikwe. It's a town called Bukaya. It's an upcoming town, and they have this little mosque on the top of a hill. And I said, by the time I cross over to Jinja, I'll have missed my Friday prayers. So I went into this mosque and made the prayers. I've always said my Luganda is pedestrian, and all the sermon and preaching was in Luganda. So I just participated in the prayer without understanding much of the sermon. And fortunately, the young person who was giving the sermon was an S6 boy, and he understood my predicament. And after the prayers, he came and greeted me in English and said, "How are you?" and all that, and all those niceties. So I asked him what was the sermon and the messages afterwards. And he said there were two messages. One, they have a problem of water because they're on the tap system and they could not afford the water because it's a small community. The Friday prayers alone was about 15 people. And if they made that contribution, they would not be able to meet the water bill, the electric bill, and all that. And the second one was they wanted exercise books for the small madrasa that they had built. So I asked them, which is the priority? And to them, the priority was water. And I said, okay, I'll take it up from here and give me your details, and I'll pay the water bills for the foreseeable future.
Wow.
And this is what has been going on. It's not a lot of money to me. It's little money what I contribute for to them monthly. But every year I go there, I'm like a little celebrity. They make me stand and make a speech.
In Luganda, then.
in English or Swahili.
Yes.
And it's very, very humbling. And when they tell the people that this is the person who is helping us with the water, please be careful, don't bring the mud and so on and wash. We've been struggling. Look at the water as a gift from Allah, because this man was traveling on his way and he just happened to stop around our town, and he's doing that. So to me, that was a very humbling experience. And each time I go, I make sure I go and pray there, and I receive their prayers. And it's really big to me. And to them, it's
fantastic. And I'm sure anyone listening will have found that as well quite humbling when you have no connection to the area, because quite often you'll find that many of us will end up getting engaged in projects, and it is simply because probably we are connected to the areas and so on. This was you just traveling, and then a chance opportunity just brings you, and Allah is saying, I'm moving you to this place to pay the water bill. That direction. No, fantastic, Jaden. I've had, I think now that you are mentioning, I had about three things that I could probably just mention quickly. The first one was when I moved to Kiriandongo in the first instance. As a Muslim, and this was really carried on from my father, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. Whenever you go to a place, he said the Muslim's identity is, when you get to any place, the first thing that you look for is a mosque. So I get to Kiriandongo. It's my first time moving into the area. I'm trying to find myself, a place that I could, find a farm, buy land for a farm. And when I go to the town center, because Muslims are always in the trading centers. I mean, if it was a village, probably you might wonder, but this was like a trading center on the highway, very busy. To imagine that you would not have any Muslims there, was kind of, unbelievable. So when I got to the place, Actually, the shop they showed me to like the busiest shop, belonged to a Muslim who is Mehdi. So I get to the place and I'm asking him, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? And where is the mosque? And he says, mosque. You start seeing the sort of look on someone's face.
Yeah.
So I start getting stories about the place, just in terms of, where the mosque is. So the first thing that really hit me was that the first prayer place for Muslims was given by a pastor, Pastor Kakande, who owned like about 6,000 acres of land there. So it's a big farm that he had where he was growing his holy rice. And he had provided Muslims because many of his workers were Muslim. And because they had the issue of having a place to pray from, he provided this space. But it was a grass thatch. So he just allowed them to put a sort of a mini tent, but in a grass thatch to be able to pray. By the time I arrived in the area, they were actually telling me now the pastor had changed his mind. He wanted to use the space where the mosque was. And therefore, effectively, on the very day that I come to ask about a mosque is the day that the mosque was no longer existent. So it really hit me so hard, and it was immediate. I looked at the numbers of Muslims. There were about 15 just within the quick vicinity with a quick count. I just changed my mind and I said, I'm buying the land. I just went and asked, is there any land here? And we moved. There was a piece of land, about 50 by 100, and there was a house. Surprisingly, this small, funny house was actually, the house was facing the Qibla. So in entering the house, in its size, in its smallness, it didn't matter because as we got in, we were just ready to face the Qibla. It was just a question of, facing the Qibla and getting to work. So I went there and I didn't even look back. I paid the money for the land. It was not something I had set out to do, but it was immediate. And this is the idea of when you are saying the beauty that is in giving, that when you give, actually, the satisfaction that you get is more that you feel that you have been given instead of you actually giving. You are giving, but the satisfaction is one of the person who has been given a chance to give. Yeah. And this is how it felt. So both 50 by 100, it felt like it was small as we wanted to expand. I reached out to Muslim journalists in Uganda, to whom I was the chairman at the time, and they contributed a little money. So we increased the land from 50 by 100 to 70 by 125, and which is the size that is there at the moment. This is the appeal for people who saw some time back. I was making an appeal for the construction of a mosque, and I was asking people to give me, to help us and, sort of contribute to this. But this was a starting point into a community that was very busy. Many of these are sort of migrant workers, laborers, especially from Busoga, who come in and work on many of the farms, big farms that are there, because Kakande was there, Mukwano was there. There are about 6-7 big farms. And all of these were an attraction to many Muslims. Many Basoga, you'll know that many Basoga or many Muslims are Basoga. At least the biggest Muslim population in Uganda is Basoga. So many of them were there, but they were so poor to even, establish a space. And that was the first thing that really came in. It sort of was very powerful. The second thing, which was before that, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it, alhamdulillah, was my wife, Hajat Naima. I think we'll be talking about her borehole project later on. But she came and went to a hospital, I think up north, and there was a very serious lack of incubators. Many women were giving birth. There was no electricity. There were no incubators. Many babies were dying because, especially those premature births. Mm-hmm. And she started a campaign to start looking for incubators and getting to the hospital, speaking to the hospital administration, looking at the sorry state in which the hospitals were. It really suddenly rang a bell, brought in a very, very, sort of powerful feeling and the urge to want to do something. And that really started or began a journey that also looked into a different direction that was there. And I'm sure I still have many of these stories, but it's not about us. It's about the other people. And I think we should be bringing in more people now to sort of talk about the sort of things that they are doing and how they think that has changed people's lifestyles. Isma, we have several clips there. So please, if you can have them on standby, we will be able to speak about them. But why not actually start close to home and bring in Hajat Naima Kayira? Hajat Naima, please, if you can come in and probably tell us about that giving as well, and then we'll cross to more people.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum
Wa alaikum
salam wa
salam wa
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
barakatuh.
How are you? I miss you.
I miss you too. So
Hey, I thought I'm not allowed to say that on the program.
I think you are taking it a bit too far now.
Well, this is the conversation. This is what conversations are supposed to be.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The urge to give, I think I've always had that. And obviously, you've spoken about the project or the incident around Lacho Hospital. So Lacho Hospital is in, I think, Apache district.
Yeah.
And it is a government hospital, but surprisingly, when we did visit, I think I had started something to do with distribution of baby clothes, so packages. So I did
the mama kits.
Yes, I shipped a few blankets, a few baby clothes. So the aim was to distribute in hospitals. My first visit was at Mulago. So Mulago Hospital we did. I went with my son, Makin, and we went to the maternity ward. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite a good experience for Makin because when as we entered the hospital in the corridor, there was a lady who was totally naked, in labor, in pain, and actually was almost giving birth. And I don't think everyone cared. So I think that was quite traumatic for him. But he did offer to come and also obviously help with the distribution of these clothes. We did the distribution, went to the head, I think, of the department, and we asked how we can actually continue doing this piece of work. So the first thing they asked me, are you a registered organization? Are you a registered agent or project? I said no. And I saw there would be some sort of issue in terms of doing that without having any sort of paperwork.
Yeah.
That gave me the idea of registering an organization, and obviously being able to, because if you are seeking funding, you have to have the right papers sometimes. So that one is in the pipeway. I haven't really sat down and completed it, but inshallah I will try, because the sort of idea I have is where you link the donor to the local communities, you link the donors to the project. So the idea is still there. So that's how I ended up in Lacho Hospital. And in there, the children didn't have incubators at all. So what they were using actually was charcoal stove. So they would warm the room with the charcoal stove. So
they were like brooding. They were like brooders for chicken. In other words, if you think about it.
Yeah. So same thing when I came with all this passion and all. It was all about paperwork. Do you have this? And I was like, okay. Well, it's a gesture of kindness and that, but I thought probably with that we could go further. So then that came to the idea of boreholes, because I thought with boreholes that you don't need the kind of bureaucracy that comes with the others. So Ministry of Health would want to know where you're coming from and all that and things like that. So borehole, we were a few ladies. We sat and looked and said, what can we do every year, giving back every year without even noticing you're doing it, like you just earn those words. And this we said, borehole, at least in a year, you know that this year, 2023, I participated in building giving back to a community through water. We gave a community water. So that's how our borehole project started. So in the beginning, we started very small.
Can I just interrupt you there while we watch this clip, Hajat Naima?
No, I think the sound that we are getting is the wrong sound, Isma. The clip is right, but the sound that is in is yes, it's the wrong. It's for another clip. This is the borehole project. Hajat Naima, I think you can speak over the pictures as they play. I think because we can see it's just an illustration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we started off I think we were like 4 ladies. Everyone was excited about it. So we said we'll start a group. So when we started the group, then we shared the link. We said, do you want to be part of this good work? We want to be giving back to the community. And alhamdulillah, I think now at the moment, the forum has almost 72 members. And these are people who just come in and contribute whatever amount they can contribute.
Well, Hajat Naima, it's not an NGO, it's not a registered NGO, it's just a loose formation of people who are interested in providing, doing borehole.
That's why I say with the borehole, the way I saw it, it was more informal. It's something that you just contribute and you just build. So what we did, because obviously as we've gone on, we've come to learn that there are people who can be not quite honest. So we said, how do we manage that? So we got a sister Aisha. She's my sister-in-law who volunteered to be sort of our coordinator in Uganda. So the way we do it, or we would ask, even initially when we started, we asked, who knows of any community that is in dire need for water or a borehole? And then people would come out and say, hey, my village, so I know this one. So we would then list the details. You get the contact detail of the person who we need to work with. And we would send those details to our sister Aisha. Our sister Aisha then would then be in contact with these people. What she then screens out is that this is not a personal project for someone wanting a borehole. You'll also investigate and make sure that the land where we are going to do that borehole is a communal place, so there's no family
no personal claim to that piece of land.
Because what we are aiming at is putting something for the community. So she will do all that background search and background investigation. Then she will come back and say it's clear. When we then get the clear, initially we worked with another company, but in the end it turned out not to be a good one. So we've now have the constructors we are using, Water Giants. They've been good so far. So we give them the details. They will go with Sister Aisha. They look at the place and then they will do their quotation. So that's how we are doing it. So when they do
So Hajat Naima, this will be totally random. It doesn't have to be in a specific area. It could be in West Nile, it could be in Western Uganda, it could be in the south.
Anywhere.
Right.
So we have like a list, because people would say, yeah, I told you last year about this community. How come we haven't dealt with this? There is like a first come, first serve basis. And normally because we are quite a small group, and I think most of you have seen messages on WhatsApp, please join, we need raising this amount. But sometimes response is not as quick as you may think. So because we are such a small group, we aim not to overstretch our pocket. So we'd look at least quotation around 6 to 7 or 8 now with the inflation. So some people, would come out with would tell us there is need. Like, for example, I think there was a gentleman who wanted us to go to Karamajong area, and I think there were issues with security at that time, so we couldn't. So we endeavor to go anywhere, but then the quotation, if the quotation, some places the water are quite so deep that the quotation may be a bit overwhelming, like 25 million or so, or 30 million, and we can't. So we'd come back to this community and say probably we could try other venues. And then if you also can try elsewhere, we then can try and help the community. But
just for purposes of time, I'd just like to bring in more people as well into the conversation. Yeah. But how many boreholes have you done since this initiative started?
Alhamdulillah, I think we've done now like 6. So every year we see at least we build 2 boreholes for a community.
Right.
And I really want to thank everyone who's taken the initiative to join. It's been really, what's the word, rewarding, pleasing. You can't believe people are really passionate about giving back in the community. And what really puts a smile on our faces are those pictures. Because when they send you the pictures, you really smile and say, okay, we've made a difference here. So we do pray that Allah accepts from us.
Allahumma ameen. Okay, well, Hajat Naima, I think for purposes of time, thank you very much. We'll just get to bring in more people into the conversation. Jaden, maybe you have seen.
Yes, I'll just pick up from what Hajat Naima has said and the challenges that you've cited. And to me, challenges are an opportunity for us to make something bigger, because you've mentioned the water, but I'm looking back at the beginning of life, the buying of incubators for the hospital. So my question to whoever is listening there, what does it take to register an NGO in Uganda so that we don't have these bureaucratic bottlenecks, so that whoever is willing to channel their help can go through that registered charity, and we are not restricted to water, because there's medicines, there's incubators, there's vaccines and things like that. If organizations like the Rotary Club, for example, channel their resources to particular clubs within Uganda, what is holding people back, and why should there be these bottlenecks, considering that we are just helping people, or people are just helping other people back home?
Well, good food for thought. I'm sure we'll hear from the audience as well, just in terms of that. What I'll tell you is now the rules have been changing, especially for NGOs, because one of the political terrain, especially building up to the last elections in 2021, there was a lot of thinking that many non-government supporters had channeled money through NGOs to try to destabilize the government. And therefore, the government really went in very strong. Many NGOs were closed. And now, increasingly, there's been an issue of LGBTQ, the whole homosexuality issue, with the bill that went to Parliament this night, regarding homosexuality. And therefore, many NGOs were feared of the fact that they had been contributing in one way or to another into this particular process of spreading the whole gospel of homosexuality. So that has affected NGOs. A lot of money, like now it's controlled how much money, for example, they can bring in. And it's been an issue. There's a kind of a fight between government and NGOs, just in terms of given that sort of background that I've just mentioned. So the ball game has been changing, but that's easy to find out from the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, URSB. If you just go on the website, you'll find the conditions for registering an NGO, and that should be there. So I'll just bring in someone else into the conversation. Mahmoud or Mariam, or let's go to Moses Mpima, who had come in and then dropped out. Moses Mpima, welcome to the conversation. You can unmute yourself, please. Hello, Moses. Hello, Moses, are you there?
While we are waiting for Moses, this is a double take for a different. We've got the channel, the chat room is open. If you are too shy to say or make that contributions, just put it in the in the chat room. We've got eyes looking everywhere, looking for people who have raised their hands and for anything that goes in the chat. Just give us your experience and your ideas about giving back to the community. And would love to hear from our brothers in South Africa.
Yes, that is the brother in South Africa, Said. But Mudathir as well. So we've got Mudathir and Said.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the conversation.
For me, I really don't have what to say, but I just loved, I've got inspired the way how things you have been doing them, the one there for mosque when you're going to Jinja. Really, when you are telling that story, it showed that Allah planned it to help those people so that at least they can come out of that problem. And then also Hajat for the borehole, you see that she started from different places, hospitals, until she went to the borehole. And really, I grew up from villages whereby the kind of water we are trying to drink was so dirty. And then, so when I see someone who is supporting this borehole thing, I feel like I'm the one who is in that regard.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, so really, if it's only that sometimes it depends on the amount you are getting. It is not that a strong income for my side, né? But maybe I can join, maybe so that maybe a smaller contribution, at least we combine and then at least we add and then we have something which can be at least visible instead of in the eyes of Allah. But I really am happy and I'm inspired the way how Allah brought these things to you, and at least you have not kept quiet. You have tried to share with us so that at least we are also inspired. Sometimes we get like scared that what can I do with this small, or what can I do with this? But if we have a joint hand, maybe at least we can also get rewards from there. You never know, even how they might.
Yes, fantastic, Said. Thank you very, very much. I mean, as they say in UK, every little helps. That is one of the supermarkets which goes with that motto. Never underestimate the power of the little that you think you have. And I think through projects like those, when you start thinking about such funding options, it becomes even the much better and much easier to finance when you think it would have taken a lot of money to sort of do that. That would definitely... Hajat Naima, I think there is a message here for you from Hajat Sarah, who says, I'd like Hajat Naima to share the WhatsApp group link for those who may be interested. Already Said, I think he said is coming in. Remember, if you have a project, if you have an initiative that you're doing that you might actually end up hearing from people here and getting them to join the initiative, just like there's suddenly this whole idea of interest in a borehole. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ was very keen on water because there's a Sahaba. His mother died, and when the mother passed on, the son was very bothered, and he came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Rasulullah, my mother has died. Is there anything that I can do on her behalf that would continue to flow? The Prophet ﷺ said, provide water or dig a well. And therefore, without a doubt, if you go into a project that has to do with availing water for people, that is definitely something that is sadaqatul jariyah, a continuous charity that continues to flow as you go ahead. Well, while we are still in South Africa, why not have Mudathir there so that we finish with the South Africans and then we can start crossing over to the US and so on.
Thank you Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you, Mr. Kayira, for for giving this opportunity, representing all those who are staying in South Africa. I'm really very sorry because I'd prepared very well to be into this conversation, but I've been in and out because of I'm the only person who's at home. You can
right. You are doing the cooking.
Yeah, but I'm really very happy to be part of this conversation, and I don't have much to say, but what I can say is giving back to the community through the NGOs. For me, I've been a little bit reluctant even to do contributions into those NGOs because I had a perception of, especially if I'm not involved, I feel like, these NGOs, if you dig deep, they're money makers, they are there to collect money to pay the rent, they are there to pay money for salaries. So I've been a little bit reluctant, but I think my perception towards that is it's a little bit changing as I grow up, because you reach a certain age and ask yourself, what are you going to leave? What have you contributed to the community? And you find yourself engaging yourself into community activities, not because, but because of the age. As you grow, you find yourself, fully getting into the community activities, but haven't been too much into that. I don't know if others will agree with me.
Well, Mudathir, let me just say this, that I think there has been, whether the use of the word NGO is a bit heavy, because charitable organization might be a better word, because when you go into NGO, that's where you have the structured business models that you're talking about with salaries and so on. A thing like, for example, this initiative that Hajat Naima was talking about, they don't run any offices, they don't pay any salaries. It's about people who are just getting their 10 pounds or their 20 rands or 50 rands, putting it on the table, and then it goes on to an initiative, and with full accountability, because everything really, like they just come and say, this is the budget we have been given, this is what we were working upon. So probably NGO was looking a bit too big, but even with the small initiatives. So are you saying you have not done anything back home in Uganda while being in South Africa, like helping people even at an individual level?
No. At an individual level, I've done.
Let's hear that, please.
I was that kind of a person who wanted to make sure that my contribution goes to the right people.
Right.
Yes. And if I'm convinced that my contribution will go to somebody, then I can put in that money in. But for all the years that I've been in South Africa, I haven't had an opportunity for somebody to approach me. But I've tried to approach those communities myself, and then I've done a contribution towards them.
All right. Thank you very much, Bwana Mudathiran, for representing Mzansi there with Said. Jaden, I can see Galaxy 7's hand up. Yes.
Yeah, Galaxy 7H, can you unmute yourself and give us your take on your experience of giving?
Wa
alaikum salam.
It's Haji Samakumbi.
Yes, you have changed.
Yeah.
Brother Makumbi, welcome once again.
Yeah, I'm a man of different colors.
Tell us about your experiences about giving.
I had a school nearby. When I came into, was one of the fairing school. So the attendance was so low. People much of it were fishermen, sons and daughters, whom education was second to their life. So when I came in, I realized that people could attend if at all could need to reach the porridge system that you had. So I offered monthly money for buying porridge for the school, and the attendance went up. So people left other schools coming to this school, and the number went up. Then I realized that those children, they've never seen any newspaper at all or any magazine at all. So what I did, I started subscribing for New Vision, reading it, then correcting it, giving it to them to take the school so that they could read their stories with their teachers and the rest. And then I had a friend of mine who had so many novels around and books. So I talked to him and he volunteered to bring them in. So when I gave those schools, those novels and the rest to the school, so it was compulsory for everybody to read at least a novel and tell stories to others. And the level of the academic level improved. When I just came in, there was only one getting grade B, was at least 2 or 3. The majority of them were failing. But the input they put in and supporting local activities like athletics and everything. So this year I managed to get 12 first grade. And because of the success of the school, we've been overwhelmed by people. The school was supposed to have at least 400 people. Now they've got around 700. So the small thing that I've been putting in has changed the lifestyle of the school. And had so much about people when they start. Half of them were sent home because not having textbooks or exercise books, paper than the rest. So I went around the village collecting them, paying for those items to them, and then life has changed. The good thing is, so the youth, whenever I walk around, I hear nobody calling my name, though I've never met anybody, but the whole village knows my name. So
how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
Proud. I feel very happy, and I don't fear about walking around at night because much of those people who live around are coming from that school. So my security has been enhanced by the little confusion that I made in the school.
Brother Makumbi, I think you targeted the right areas. You targeted what would call nourishment for the body and nourishment for the brain. So by giving them porridge to start off with, you encourage those people to continue, to come to school in the first place. So if we look at the contributions that we make, what is it that makes us decide on a particular contribution or a particular project? Is it the need of the project or what you believe is going to help the community?
If you're starting any project, don't go by the asking people around. Just walk around and see the needs. Then make the choice what you can afford. Because if you ask the public, they'll make it very expensive that you can't afford it and just have to back away. So if you go around, if you want to make a borehole, whatever it is, just go in, do whatever it is. There was also a mosque in my area. They didn't have they had the borehole, but every time was breaking down. So I paid for much of the parts and clock in the mosque. And then everything, it became tradition that every year whenever I'm there, they complain about the clock, that the batteries are run down or blah, blah. But small donation at least make a change to lifestyle.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Issa Makumbi, and a fantastic presentation there. Jaden, just like I said, I've got loads of stories flowing around me, and they just keep coming in little bits. I was here when I came to Uganda, I think about 3 years ago. I got back and I looked at the developments that were taking place. You asked me a question before the program started when we were just sort of having a pre-chat to the conversation. You're asking me about what you are missing, what is happening in Uganda that is different. Around that time when I arrived in the country, I looked at, how real estate, how many estates we are developing, mushrooming all over the place. Some of them very disorganized, unplanned, and, in particular situations where you find a very expensive house sitting in the middle of a slum, access to the house being so difficult. So an idea came to my mind, and I was thinking, we have lived abroad for so many years. When many of us look at going back home, although of course to many it's sort of a dream that is not yet happened. And the idea was that we live abroad and then we are hoping to go back home at one point in time. Even with your best friend that you used to have in Uganda, once you leave, you have actually left. When you come back, as best friend as they seemed, you are no longer really in tandem. You are no longer at the same pace of understanding, of looking at things. Even your friendship is affected by that. Uthman in Boston, I've just seen your message, so we will come to you. Jaden will just look at it and say, how much does it cost to put in place a borehole, drilling and all of that? I think we'll get the answers now coming through for later. So I was saying, when I went to Uganda at that time, I looked at that and I was thinking, many of us have lived abroad. I know Jaden, for example, because we've lived together. We have a lot in common. We are living a particular lifestyle that we are used to. So the idea came to my mind and I was thinking, how about if we came and got a village that was a village for people who have returned from abroad, and we just create our own lifestyle. We create our own roads, we create our own sewage system, which feeds into the national grid, but at least planned by us and therefore becoming what it is. It was a pipe dream, but then I ran it past people. In a Zoom session during lockdown, I flagged it to people, and then the next thing is Dr. Kasato says, Sheikh Kayira, you mentioned something, and I had a sleepless night about it. Is there something we can do about it? And we started talking about it. Now, this has led to the birth of London Village in Uganda. We came back home, bought 42 acres of land, and we have established, and we are establishing, inshallah, our own first diaspora, totally
Village.
Diaspora estate. With roads, with a master plan, with a mosque, with a park, with gardens, with a shopping center, with cinema. It's with a hospital, with a sort of a grade 3 or health center hospital that is on site. This looked like a dream 3 years ago. We have already bought the land. We have already, got the master plan. It's getting approved now. And the plots have been allocated. 136 families living in the diaspora, many in the UK, quite a number in the US as well. Now, this was like totally a dream, but that's not my story. With this village now established, because everywhere you go now, it's called London Village. You just get to the border riders, you ask about London Village, they will just take you in. It's on Masaka Road, just after Mpambire there, where they make drums. But when we got to the area, because now we had bought this huge chunk of land, it's about 8 hills that are facing each other, that's sitting on 42 acres. We got to the area and there was no water. And we were thinking, just like the previous asker was saying, how do you identify? Actually, it was you, Jaden, who asked, how do you identify what is the need for the area?
For the area. Looking
at the population and what was going on, it really looked like now the issue of a well would be a very plausible thing. Isma, in the technical department, please, if you can play that clip while I speak over it, at least just to show our people, how we ended up deciding on narrowing down to a well, not a borehole this time, but a well, because there was a natural water source, but very disorganized. When we started clearing our land and creating roads, plotting our land into what it has become now, part of the soil that was coming from our estate went and blocked the waterways for people in the community. It became an express opportunity for us now to go and dig a well. That was me now there in the pink shirt with the protruding tummy there, with Sheikh Buku, who has been doing the construction on the well.
Sorry, we've lost you there.
Oh, you've lost me. No, I can hear myself well. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Because the clip is, yes. Yeah. So we ended up doing a well for the community, something that they didn't think could happen at all. This well cost about 5 million shillings, but we went and put in and we went and handed over that well. The kind of spirit and support that has come from the village as a result of that, these have become our eyes and ears in a community that we are trying to settle in, where we haven't even settled. This really creates a security network, like the person, I think it was Engineer Isa Makumbi was saying, he can walk at night comfortably and not fearing, because he knows he has the security of the people that he has provided help for. Now, with this well complete, it has really, really changed our kind of relationship, because many of them had seen, what happens, an estate comes, people open up and create roads and create houses. The next thing is they are looking at the neighbors, the existing people, as nothing. But this was now putting us in tandem. It was just putting us on the same footing with the local community, and it opened up new doors and opportunities for what would happen. For just 5 million shillings, well, it sounds like just, but it's a lot of money, of course, but we were changing hearts within a community. in an area that still has, land for expansion. It means people will be coming and whispering into our ears about the availability of any more land because we are already on the ground. So it makes a difference that now we realize with this water source, people now can have access to clean drinking water. Children can avoid the waiting, the long queues in waiting in the morning before they go to school as they need to fetch water. All of this has happened pretty fast. Isma, if you can please just forward a little bit that thing, because it's taking forever with a bit of that. You can just go to the real handover. But I just wanted to look at the flow of the water, the quantity of the water that is flowing there. It suddenly opened up doors and windows within the community simply because we had thought about the right project, and the moment we did it, it just opened up doors. Jaden,
I think what you have mentioned there is a very important point, because giving, you can view it as a double-edged sword, because it cuts both forwards and backwards, much to the people who are receiving it, because they're the ones who are in need, and that need has been identified. But you get the kickback as the blessings from Allah to begin off with, and then also people acting as your eyes and ears on the ground in a place where you are completely strangers. But
yes.
The one thing, while Isma is looking at that clip, the one thing which somebody asked me while I was selling this topic out is that there's been schools of thought where they say that if you are going to give in charity, for example, if the left hand is going to give, the right hand should not know that the left hand is giving. So
yes.
how do we ride that cliff of keeping the
Very
donation?
Easy.
Keeping
very
the donation.
Easy, Mr. Jaden. Yes, very easy, Mr. Jaden. Even from an Islamic perspective, let's go Islamic. The Prophet ﷺ, during the Battle of Tabuk, Muslims were in dire straits. There was lack of finances available, and there was pressure. They needed money to go and fight in battle. While people could give in secret in other situations, this one was made public. There are times when you can make public whatever you are giving to encourage and motivate people. I'll give you an example. Hajat Naima came and spoke about the borehole. We've had already interest from nearly 3 people in the chat room asking about the borehole project. There is no way, if the right hand was not letting the left hand know, that we could have had any interest coming in this particular instance. There's already questions coming over other things within the chat room as well. So there are times, if we are going to use that as a way of encouraging people, then why not? The Prophet ﷺ, even in this particular battle of Tabuk, people went into their homes and brought stuff. Abu Bakr comes, and people looked in and they said, oh, well, it was Umar, it was Uthman. They were bringing stuff, and everybody was saying, the Prophet is asking, what have you brought us? He says, I've brought a quarter of my wealth. Another one comes in and says, I've brought a half of my wealth. Abu Bakr comes in and says, I've brought everything from my house. And then the Prophet asks, who have you left in your home? What have you left in your home? And he says, I've left Allah and his messenger in my home. This was an encouragement, because suddenly it sort of opens up again opportunities for people to be able to partake. Look at Mudathir in South Africa, who has been doubtful about the dodgy businesses surrounding NGOs. Hearing about a project that is practical, that is delivering to the end person, suddenly changes their mind. They've not had an opportunity for the time they've been in South Africa. This becomes the eye-opening in a program like this. Just remind people, we are live on 75W Radio and live on Ummah Connected, and we are streaming live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom, with 12 minutes past midnight in Kampala, and where Jaden you are, I'm sure it's 12 minutes past 9 o'clock.
12 minutes past 9 o'clock on a very cold day.
Question, Jaden, yes, there are times when we can do this if it is going to provide a motivational platform for people to give. There are people who don't give, not because they don't want, but because they don't know. And this is an opportunity to know.
That is well elaborated there, Brother Kassim. Now, I believe we need to open the chat to people who have just joined us, people who have always been in this journey with us. We're talking about charitable giving and charitable giving back home, how we are giving it back to the community as people who are in the diaspora. If I give a little history of what giving means to people here in the UK. We've got organizations like the Red Nose Day, we've got the Virgin Marathon, we've got Marie Curie, we've got all kinds of charities riding the wave of kindness of the public. And they are donating £1 here, £2 there, £10 there, and putting it all into the good of the less fortunate people. Now, the issue of trust comes in, especially with us Africans. You cannot be in two places at the same time while you entrust your donations to whoever is on the ground. Hajat Naima was lucky to get her, was it sister-in-law? But in a case where somebody wants to donate back home, how do they build that trust to make sure that the money actually reaches where it's meant to be?
Well, that's a question I think we should be putting to our audience and just flagging it straight. Well, I can see Hajat Sarah Semakura. Hajat Sarah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, well, the issue of trust as raised by Jaden there. How do we handle trust?
We here in Europe, very lucky. We've had very trusted people like Dr. Kasato has run quite a number of drives whereby we had to contribute. Of recent, we did build a house for Jamil. I think so many people know about that, and he kept
Jamil Bole.
Bole and dating us and showing us pictures, and we were going. The project started when we were all watching up to the end, and even at the handover, we were all present on the ceremony on Zoom. So our UK people have been very trusted, and we can still trust them because they have really delivered. When they have put up fundraising drives for different things, and they have really worked. And at times, what you should bear in mind for someone who is giving, yes, people still, by the end of the day, Allah, if you're giving for the sake of Allah, you know that at least your niyyah was pure, and whatever you gave for a certain cause. And if someone diverted that funds, then it's them to answer to God, because you have done what you've done, because you know why you're doing it. Yeah, it would be a shame that if you contributed money, someone didn't use it through the project that you wanted to, but at least you have given and you know that it will go onto your account. So we are very happy to go on to many projects because we've seen it working.
But
Thank
now,
you very much.
Sarah, you talk about the trust coming here from the UK side. It's about the Ugandan side on the ground. What sort of mechanisms have been put in place to allow people to trust that now money can do what it is meant to do and not end up in people's pockets?
Yeah, they have a network. Like when Dr. Kassad does the fundraising, you might find that Imam Kashozi is on the other end, or Sheikh Soso is on the other end. They have a network. At least the groups we've been going through, doing our donations. So we are quite happy. I wouldn't really complain about it all.
Right. Jaden.
Thank you
You
very
can
much.
still always find someone like Hajat Naima from the sister-in-law who is trustworthy, and it helps really. It helps to get someone trustworthy because you do want to make, it's hard-earned money and you want it to go to a very good cause.
Thank you very much, Hajat Sarah, for that contribution. And it's encouraging to know that people have got routes on both ends where the money can reach to where it's intended to reach. And the rewards, as you said, it's Alan who knows best whatever you are doing. And if the money is diverted, then you still get your rewards, inshallah. Now,
Mariam, we wanted to check on you to bring you in. Mariam, are you there? Mariam, would like you to share your experience of giving back home. Sister Mariam? Oh, Rashida Nalukenge just realized I was about to go to her. Now, hello, Mariam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kayira, to bring that good conversation.
Amen.
Which encourages our heart because some of us, we are so behind, but we need to get to join the chain.
Yes.
Yes. For me, I was just supporting my village where my grandmother grown.
Yes.
It. So I just see supporting the mosque. There is a small mosque which was built by my auntie. Now she's late.
Allahumma ghfir laha.
It was a small mosque, but thank God, when those people come from Saudi Arabia, there's a group of charity came from Saudi Arabia. They going around to the villages to see where the mosque is so they can build the mosque. Yeah, they can renovate or they build a big. So they did build a big mosque on that place. So we was contributing, look after, giving the imam, something like that, small things. But I'm happy that people, they are happy on that village because there was issue even before we managed to sort it out because there was people who buy that land. There's whatever, there is so issues from the family that someone sell the land, but that land is belong to the mosque. So the people in the village just fight for that. They went to the court and whatever. They fight and they win. So that's good thing that the mosque come back to us. Yeah. So they didn't take the person who bought the land, it doesn't take the mosque. So that is my issue. That's my
your contribution.
Your contribution.
Yes.
Don't worry about the numbers. If I remember correctly, Mother Teresa said, do not worry about the numbers. Start with one and start with the one that is closest to yourself. So you started with what was close to you. This is your mosque, which your auntie started building, and you did look at how big it was, the little that you contributed in terms of, I don't know if you bought mats, I don't know if you contributed to the wages of the imam. So let other people listening to this program not be discouraged that they need a large amount of money or they need a big project. It can even be something as small as buying uniform for a kid who is going to secondary school. They've got good results, but they don't have the uniform. So if you can just contribute or make a commitment to say, I'll buy your uniform every year. And if you convert the uniform, how much is that uniform? Probably £5-10, which you could use on a bus ride. And you're going to encourage that young person to go to greater heights, to attend the education. So the numbers should not be a discouragement to whoever is thinking of or who is holding back on contributing to charities back home. And I know people say when you make that contribution, you get the bad name that he's coming here to show of his little wealth. Just put that out of your mind, because we are not going there to show anybody anything. You're going there to contribute. This is what your nia is. Your nia is to contribute and make better. I can see Brother Sowed, you've been quiet for some time.
Ajati Mariam, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum to Allah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I was trying this time around to first listen to other people's experiences, but you know, on the issue of community service back home, giving back to your community, I've been called upon to join hands with already existing people who were on the ground trying to do things. The sister there spoke about the issue of the mosque, but I had a brother. He was working for United Nations in Nairobi, but he came, he visited here, and then he sat me down. He brought up a very brilliant idea that was with something that I could easily manage and contribute in. He told me that he had circled around the mosque imams of all the area in our area. Actually, he mapped out the whole district, and he said that they had an issue with by then he said most of them have their councils were very, very bad, in bad shape in terms of appearance wise, why they were worn out. So he came to me, he said, oh, okay, can you get the brothers within the UK who are from Umbale, so that who are Muslims who can answer this call, so that we can raise money and buy councils, at least each of them two, or at least if we are the muaddin of the mosque and the imam, so that we can give something back to our community. We raised money that time. We did something, and then that was a positive one. Then we came from giving them the councils. We mapped out a few where we could help in terms of putting up toilets. Toilets was another issue on the mosques in the villages. Mosques. So we mapped out the mosques that were accessible on the roads, that were busy, that lacked these facilities, the toilet facilities. We managed to go and help them construct 2 brand new toilets in 2 mosques. At least that gave me some bit of satisfaction. Let me say something. There's a brother from South Africa. He mentioned something to do with he had a negative attitude about giving back to the community, but he realized that as you grow older, you come to learn the importance of the community. Now, I was personally at loggerheads with that when I was growing up. For example, because I used to see my dad spend most of his earnings into community service, especially giving out money. And you would think as a child growing up, he's like, what is this man up to? We need this man as a family. He's spending all his money, in community service, giving out to the needy and all this. But as you grow, you realize that guarding your wealth jealousy does not guarantee that your children will find it. The happiness and satisfaction is in when you share that wealth with others. You get it? And that is something that you can only obtain as you grow, as you spiritually upgrade into something that realizes the value of sharing and giving out what you have. That because when I look back 20, 25 years back, when you were growing up, all of us, I'm sure everyone, some people on this forum will agree with me that their families, when we were growing up, they were very bright, vibrant families in terms of wealth. They had the money. Their children went to one of the best schools around, and you could see they were rolling big. But 20 years later, 30 years later, you find that you are on either same footing or you are even past them in terms of how things have turned out to be. So when you reflect back, it's when you think, no, giving back to community is something very important. I took a year during the COVID. I stayed in Uganda, but then the only thing I encountered with our people still, I think it's either poverty. It is hard. People are not trusted. People are not trusted. It was very, very hard. Even the most reliable people that you may think of, you find that, they sleep a little bit in terms of accountability. But anyway, there are certain things you even have to take as a buy. You just pay a blind eye on them so long as they have not eaten the largest share of the money, and put something in, because that's what you have to settle for. If you gave someone 100,000 and he used the 90,000, try and ignore the 10,000. Yeah, because finding the perfect one, it's in short. They are in short supply. Finding somebody that will do that thing religiously, committed to deliver the program the way you want it. I have a business, but that business it has changed hands more than 5 times. Everyone that are interested with the business comes out and does something opposite. Recently, I was last in Uganda, free. I was there last year in July until November. Yeah. I appointed someone in my business, but again, the same issues I faced with the previous person that I'd employed, it's 4 years, 4 months down the road, I'm now again beginning to experience the same. And today I was speaking to my cousin and I was asking that where are we going to find these fine people to work with us? What do these people want really? You think instead of hiring someone else, an outsider, you want them to be part of the journey. They are your relatives. You don't want them to keep on begging. You want them to be part of the journey so that you can grow together. But people keep on doing the same thing, but they overtest your patience, to be honest. I don't know how Sheikh Kayira is doing it now, because thank God, alhamdulillah, he can afford to go now and sit and oversee his projects. But doing these things remotely, it's a very big test. It's very hard. It is very, very hard.
Brother Soweto, you mentioned two important things there, which has brought two stories out of me. I remember I was in school with a chap from who was not gifted academically, and he was not from a wealthy family. And we parted ways. I took the academic route and he decided to take the theological route, and he became a Catholic priest. And on my recent trip to Uganda, I met him, and humble as he was, he did not shy from telling me that he does not have a good sponsor. And when you mentioned Kanzu, this young man's face popped up in me because he asked for the Catholic shirt. I don't know what they call it. And a dog collar.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me for money. He didn't ask me for shoes. He just wanted that symbol which would make him presentable when he's preaching in front of his community. So to me, that was a humble request. And for me to have contributed to make a priest look presentable in front of his congregation, that is completely humbled me. And I don't know how much more contribution I could make. I know he's a Christian, he's a Catholic, but we are all preaching the same thing: peace and love for humanity. The second story is when I was growing up, my dad fell on tough times because of regime change and all that. And when Eid came, he couldn't afford clothes for us. So he went to this Arab man who's owning a shop, and he asked for deni, what they call a soft loan in terms of clothing, and then he would pay. Now, 30 years down the line, I met somebody online from Tanzania, and we're exchanging stories. And I posted a picture of a certain mountain, and he asked me, "Where did you get that picture from?" And I said, "Oh, this is just the mountain in our local village." And he said, "That's where I grew up." And surprisingly, his uncle was the same man who gave my dad the soft loan to buy us Eid clothes. Now, that young man, he's in Tanzania now. He's been looking for contacts here in the UK to do a particular business, and he's always fallen to the wrong people. People have conned him and things like that. Now he's looking to me, and I'm looking to pay that loan back, the loan which they gave to my dad. You know, it's something
nearly 4 decades later.
Nearly 4 decades later, and it's chance meeting online. And I think it's Allah who's brought him towards my path. And the story is from just a picture of a mountain. He recognized that mountain, and our paths crossed again. So whatever you give in charity.
Yes, Jaden, it's 32 minutes now past midnight in Uganda. It should be 32 minutes past 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock in the United Kingdom. And well, it should be 10 o'clock then in the rest of Europe. Well, we are talking charity, and I think the more we go into this conversation, many people have gone quiet. Jaden, you raised an issue that when this topic was flagged up, someone was asking you about the idea of the right hand not letting the left hand know. That probably has pushed some people into silence. But I think look at it this now as we go deep into this conversation, you appreciate a lot more some of these little things that seem very little, but then they become big. In 2002, just the nearly Boxing Day, someone gives me a phone call and just tells me, hello, Kassim. Hi, how are you? How is everything? I'm all right. And he says, you don't know me. I'm a retired army officer. You don't know me, but I know you. And because of what I want to tell you, I would like to tell you why it is important that I tell you. In 1972, this is 2002 that we are having this conversation. In 1972, as they were killing people in Rwanda, as the genocide, the sort of mini genocide that was happening in Rwanda when they were killing many Tutsis, your dad was a businessman who used to ply between Uganda, bringing fish that is called makayabu, taking it into the Democratic Republic of Congo, oftentimes via Rwanda to get there. Your dad passes through Rwanda at that difficult time. He takes my father, who was a very tall guy, hides him in the boot of my car, hides him in the boot of his car, and helps him to flee into Uganda. I and my family owe your dad this. So whatever I'm going to tell you, I'm telling you because of a debt that we owe from all those many years. There is a position that you are going to be offered in government. Do not take it. So those words still ring fresh. This is 2023 now. It's nearly 22 years later, but they are still 21 years later, but it's very, very fresh. Vivid in my heart. And well, have it as it would, the offer was made, and then I almost was killed because someone wanted that job. And if I took it on, I would have denied them the ability to take on the job. Someone had a rumor from the back doors. And because of a favor that he thought he owed me through my father, I survived. We might be talking charity and you're just thinking about boreholes, building buildings, but there are these little things that actually, whatever you do today, you are investing in your child. Someone might come later on in future to do something to your children or for your children because of what you have done. Do not underestimate these little things. Sometimes we look at these things and you underestimate them. But every little act of charity is worth something. The Prophet ﷺ put it even in better words. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "La tahqiranna min al-ma'ruf shay'an." Never ignore even the smallest of good things. Do not ignore by thinking it is too small. There are times I feel like, what will my 10 rand do or 20 rand do? Every little helps. It is this little thing that you do, even a gesture, even a smile, even receiving someone, you don't know what the future holds for us. And therefore, charity for us, I think, should be an ongoing business that we should embark on. I see Mudathir's hand up, I think is burning. Mudathir, come back, please. Hello, Mudathir.
Can you unmute yourself, Mudathir?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kayira. I just wanted to comment from the previous, before Jaden, it mentioned something that was quite interesting for me.
Is that Hajat Mariam or Soweto? That's
yes, about
right.
for me, also the issue of trust kept me out of community contributions. I'll give you an example. There was a situation whereby
have you got something in the background? There's a feedback.
Can you hear me now?
You seem to be, bleeding in and out.
Are you using headsets or something?
No. Can you hear me now?
That's
yes,
better.
that's much better.
Okay, like there was an issue which I experienced whereby, I think everyone might have experienced the same thing, whereby you sit there, you see a WhatsApp post, maybe they're building a mosque, they are telling you to contribute. Then after a year or 2 years, you see the same post and the same numbers. So such things, really keep us out of these contributions. And most of the time, for us who
who spend most of our time in the diaspora, you keep on saying, you know what, if when I get the time and I go to Uganda, and then I'll do those contributions for myself, whereby I go onto the ground and really dig deep to see where should I put my money. So the issue of trust also really it puts some of the people out of these contributions.
Yes,
Right.
we've mentioned the issue of trust before, not just in this forum, in the different forums when we're talking about investments and developments back home. And it keeps cropping up. And somebody asked, is it in the DNA of the African person not to trust each other?
Yeah, but
this is a question which is burning everybody.
Yeah, let me also ask a question. How would you, respond to these ongoing WhatsApp videos where, in the background you see a sheikh with, with a beard preaching and say, contribute to this and this and this. Then after 4 years, you see the same thing, And then you say, man, I've seen this thing over and over again, And maybe perhaps you have already contributed towards that project and you really the project is closed, but somebody is busy collecting money via, they call it the money, mobile money. So for me, I think it's a big, it puts me off really,
Mudathir, it might be one of two things. The first thing is there are times when you imagine that the project has been running too long because people haven't contributed as was expected, because that's also the other thing. If there is transparency in terms of contributions, there are projects that just run longer in comparison to others. There are people who are better mobilizers and therefore can mobilize for funds much easily. It just depends as well on where it goes. On the mosque, for example, that I was fundraising for, there are times now you start hearing, because now the district authorities started panicking, because I think there was some money probably from Supreme Council available funding that might have come in. They came rushing and they said, we heard on a clip that has been doing the rounds and you are a very well-known person, and therefore, when your clip went out, the authorities have asked us to come and investigate the possibilities of building a mosque here. So they came in, made notes, and then disappeared, never turned up again. So people give you the false hope that, for example, they're going to build. You relax a little bit, then realize frustration, and then you go back. So it might be like it is one of two things. They might be that the project has overstayed, it has been frustrated. Or alternatively, there's also the likelihood that people have actually gone in and eaten or misspent the money and therefore led us there. But I think it is down again to what Jaden was saying, that it's down to the iman, the kind of faith that you have, the trust that you have, the intention that you have set out with. The moment you have a clear intention, your conscience should actually be in a very good place. I've had projects where, for example, Sheikh Abbas Maweje in South London had organized a very nice project of working on imams. I think Soweto did touch a little bit on this, but this one went even much further. It was trying to buy bicycles for imams. You've seen some mosques where people fail to pray Friday prayers because the imam didn't turn up. The imam has to ride from about 10 miles to come and lead prayers in that particular area. The level of poverty of the imams is unbelievable. So this was a project that sort of sought, one, to start with providing bicycles to these imams. About 200 bicycles were bought and then delivered to the different imams. The second point was to try to see how they can create a very small sort of money generating project for the imam. There are times when you look at an imam and the imam becomes very desperate. He's so desolate, and that affects his ability to provide judgment in situations where he should have participated. A very poor imam now will give a very poor judgment to a person because he's expecting something from them. So you want an imam at least to have something that would be a basic, a basis. Mosques now should have not only the imam's house, but probably an adjacent shop building that would be there, rented out, and that money now helps to run the mosque and helps to, the upkeep of the imam. There are these things that for us people who are in diaspora can actually do. And it doesn't have to be on all mosques. It starts with one mosque. Let it start expanding, and then before you know it, you have a situation that can be sustainable. It would be very disrespectful. It is so painful to see an imam who looks really, really, like rough, wearing torn clothes, and then being the person that is going to provide authority. There's no way we're going to command authority in a poverty-stricken situation.
And
so
just to add,
really
on to that, with the issue of trust, I think one, if you can go with your gut feeling, because you know where the need is or when there's a real need. But if you look at a need which is accompanied by all the colorful calculations and a proper budget and a plan and what do you call it, a project plan and all that, you start to smell a rat. Somebody's just asking for example, the case of the imam. Somebody's asking for a counsel for the imam, but they've put an elaborate bill of where to get a tailor and what kind of material to sew and the color. So they go into all those details. Then you look at it very closely. But if somebody just wants a kanzu, it's a kanzu, irrespective of the color, irrespective of the size, as long as it's a kanzu, then let your gut feeling direct you in that direction and go for it. But again, start small. You know your village. You know the kind of things that the needs that are reflected in your village. You know the people that you have grown up with. So start small and build it up from there. Actually, you don't even have to build it up from there. Just give one, make one year and do one charity for this year, and you'll be motivated to do the next one for the following year and even bigger.
Mr. Jaden, let me ask you. Let me conclude with this. And because of that trust, I'd come up with an idea, but I don't know whether it's a feasible idea. Whereby can't the Muslim community in Uganda, it's Djibouti or what? Can't we centralize like the funding for all our projects, whereby we do centralize it, whereby if somebody wants to contribute to a certain project, let's say, for the example, for Mr. Kayira, I saw your video whereby you wanted to fundraise for the masjid. I don't remember the area. You go and approach this national center for fundraising. It could be a Muslim body whereby you go and put your project there, and then whoever wants to go into that project, to put money into that project, we will be able to keep track whether you've achieved your budgeted costs, whatever, all the money that you want to fundraise that project, and if that mark has been reached in terms of what you've been looking, and then that center close off that project, so we know that is out of the what, other than whereby we're going to allow everyone to go left, right, center, because it really puts a lot of doubt into this community project. But I don't know whether that idea is really viable.
I was just about to say that is well said, or easier said than done. In Uganda, you will know that we have about 3 parallel administrations. You have the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, which would be the official administration of Muslims, but then you have the Kibuli sect, and then you have Nakasero. All these have particular channels through which, and through different experiences, everyone calls the other a thief of one source, of one sort or another. And therefore, again, it goes back to the trust issues built upon the experience from the past, and therefore, which has affected, again, the trust issues. So some people will feel much more comfortable now to fund projects through a particular channel. One area that I've found that is kind of middle of the road in all of this is what is called the House of Zakah and Waqf in Uganda. I went there and I was really surprised as to how they were sort of working with all the different, they were working with the Stream Council, working with Djibouti, working with Nakasero. It didn't matter. They were just looking at the collection of zakat and then directing it into the specific areas where zakat should go. So it's education, scholarships for students. They were paying for 400 students in university. I was really surprised. And then it's construction of mosques. For example, they've taken a keen interest in our area. Again, not yet approved, but it's gone into that. There's a possibility that they might come in to help. They find the particular builders, so they connect the donor to the organization or the area that is in need to do that. So there are efforts towards that, but of course, because of the historical difficulties, it just means some of these things are not easy to sort of get implemented. And I've seen Soweto Masaba's hand, probably he will have something to say. At 48 minutes past midnight in Uganda, 48 minutes past, yes,
just 2 minutes. Like you just said that about your project, whereby households that might come in,
Yes.
So from the donor point of view, a donor person who wants to contribute into that project, how would they match to know that, okay, Mr. Kayira has collected something from House of Zakah, so this is how much it's remaining. Then, you give yourself and say, okay, on this project, on this mosque, at least we've collected maybe 80%. If I'm to put in, I know where I can contribute and say, So how do we get that information? Because
no, that's what I'm saying. That's the dilemma.
We can't.
Sorry, I thought I was speaking and then I was just.
You're muted, yeah.
Yeah, that is dependent again on the dilemma of historical difficulties that we've had with issues of transparency. So it will depend, it's a project per project. The House of Zakah, I've just mentioned them, they've taken interest, seeing, again, it's because of Kayira, they see it's the Kayira's face and they know Kayira wouldn't really be into something that would be Manyanga. His name is much more important on him. So they come to you because they know you. But then when House of Zakah, for example, if it was to take, this project on, they wouldn't just be contributing money, they would be doing the project to the very end. And they would find funders for that. So they will go, for example, to Islamic Research Center, I think the Sheikh Al-Taya project there in Uziga. If they talk to them and say, we've gone to this place, we've seen the history behind this place, we think it is a viable project. So they attract the potential donors to come and implement the project, and they see it to the very end. So it's not about bringing some little money into the project. That would now take away the trouble. It just means that, for example, the monies that I've collected so far for the mosque now would go on to the other issues that, for example, expansion of the land, if we could increase, because, for example, now we needed to access the highway because the plot is sitting behind a plot at the front. In case someone came and put their pork roasting joint there, you wouldn't do anything about it. So such money now, for example, could go into purchasing extra space to get to the highway where you can avoid anyone coming to put something else. But it is down to transparency. It's about the project, and each project is different. Therefore, you will not have transparency for each and every project. So it goes back to the very thing that now it is down to the projects being transparent, providing an accountability for what you have got. And I think it gives trust to people when they start seeing that sort of accountability. That can't be applicable to every project. It's different because the dynamics in each place are different. The other thing that I actually wanted to mention was, with community projects especially, you want to see the involvement of the people. If, for example, we are coming to build a mosque in an area, we have provided the materials, we have brought in the technical know-how, so we've got the engineer. At least the porters should be the local people. Because once they have their input into that, we did that with the well that I just showed you on the land and village in Mpambire. The local community provided all the labor. We just bought the materials, paid the technician, but the local people were only buying lunch for them as a motivation, but they were there. Once you have that sense of ownership, people that don't feel that someone has come and built for us and just left, maintenance becomes an issue. If it is people who have been involved directly in the project, the sense of ownership is there, and that becomes a very good basis for the future management of whatever you have in hand. And that is very crucial.
I can see two hands up, Soweto Masaba and Hajat Naima. We've got 8 minutes to the end of the show. We'll put it to the vote whether to extend it for another 15 or 20 minutes because we started late. So I'll come to Brother Soweto briefly, please.
Or thank you. Sheikh Kayira, what you forgot to tell that brother of Mudathir is that what has always surprised me in all these paro administrations, which have all have claims and counterclaims against one another in terms of transparency, none of these people have ever come up and said, oh, we have a group of Muslims who paid their zakah. For example, this rich Haji, he paid 100 million. There's a receipt here that he has paid 100 million in zakatul mali, but they are all fighting over something that was given to us by Idi Amin. That is what is sad about Muslims in Uganda. Everything that they are fighting for, nothing has been done has been achieved by this generation of ours. We have never set up something that is being stolen, that's being taken away. Everything that we are fighting for, they are making reference to what the late Idi Amin gave to us as Muslims. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder, what if Amin had not given us some of these things? Would Islam even be flourishing?
Beyond the face, yeah.
Where would be the face of Islam? So that is something that we need to self-check ourselves on as Muslims.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, so wait, just an intervention there, which is, this is what I found very interesting with this house of Zakat and Waqf. All the money that has been collected, I was surprised that people pay zakah in Uganda. You wouldn't believe that people are paying, and the numbers are growing, especially people in the the workers. I wouldn't use say, because a working class in Europe would mean something different. In Uganda, Ugandan would understand if I said working class, I just mean someone who has a job and therefore, goes to an office. And with many of these people, they are paying their zakat. I found for the first time a full account, to the extent that the president, Yoweri Museveni, came to launch this house of zakat after they had raised 4.5 billion shillings. I mean, it was just, unbelievable. And they had shown where the money came from, and then the entire distribution of the money. There was accountability and transparency for once. And that gave me hope that we cannot just, sort of give up entirely. There are systems that we can evolve, develop, that can work, but it starts with one person and then spreads out to everybody. We can't keep distrusting each other without providing a mechanism that would get us out of this.
And then about identifying projects, how to that brother, the identifying things that can change a life, that can bring a satisfaction to you in your own capacity, in your little money. There are so many projects. For example, Sheikh Kayira, you've lived in Imbaga, so I can make reference to those Bujoloto. If I mention Namakwekwe, Bujoloto, those downtown villages around Islamic University, you should know they are a replica of Katanga in Kampala. Katanga,
yes.
Katanga. So when you go in there, you will tell there's absolute poverty. To be honest, at some point I was walking through those hideout places and visiting a relative who was staying in there, and then I was imagining that what sort of help does such a community need to be transformed. To be honest, I thought even if Europe poured for us billions, it will be hard to
satisfy the need there.
Yeah, especially to transfer, because I came across so many families, Brother Jadin. People will welcome you, say, "Oh, karibu tufumba," but when you look at what they are cooking, there's nothing. There's nothing. Someone tells you karibu tuli kufumba, but there's some sort of dodo there, and there's next is nothing, and they're comfortable sitting there waiting, and it's the routine, and you think, a person like this one, then their child comes back from school, you realize the exercise.
They don't have the exercise books.
The exercise books. So this brings me to my question. At least we can afford, I know, in whatever capacity, at least I know I can afford to buy exercise books for kids, school kids. At least you can identify children on your family. You have primary school. There's a primary school you never went to, but it's on your village. Back home could be Jah. There's that primary school. There will be kids there that will need exercise books and pens. When you go to Nasa Road, you can order for some of these things and donate to the school and say, okay,
This is for the school. Yeah.
You can go to these good schools in Kampala, get the past papers, take to Nasa Road, process the past papers, print them out, and say you're donating to the P7 class of that school, or P6 class, or upper primary. Those are things that you can comfortably do with your 1 million, 2 million shilling. And you also think, at least, alhamdulillah, I've donated something to my community, at least. These are things that they are little, as Seka Kayira said, don't underestimate them. They make a difference.
They make a difference. Thank you very much, Brother Sowedi. I've got Galaxy 7. I believe that is Mr. Makumbi.
Mr. Makumbi, yes.
Mr. Makumbi, unmute yourself.
Oh, not sure what exactly happened.
I don't know what's happening there.
Not sure. Maybe when he comes in, he will come in. But looking at those little projects that can make a huge difference to local communities, I've been shocked by two people recently, people who came to me asking for just a little bit of money. Again, it is one of those sports where I would have felt it was something I did out of goodwill and therefore shouldn't be mentioned. But because of the impact of what really came out of it, I think I'm sharing it probably just for knowledge purposes. This person comes to me and says, I'm stuck. You know, with all my education, things don't seem to be moving. And I asked, what are you thinking? And he says, I just want to start doing chapati chikomando style, whatever. This person was just looking for an investment of 180,000, and that was for him to buy charcoal stove, buy half a bag of charcoal, not even an entire bag, get a frying pan, get half a carton of wheat flour, get cooking oil. Basically, it all added up to around 250,000. Pushed in and brought in to 350 to have 100 that would go into those miscellaneous costs. Coming to see this person 5 months later, this person now was bringing in about 4 or 5 cartons, not packets, cartons of wheat flour. The person was in capital, rolling around 4 to 5 million. The person had opened up 3 other chapati making joints where he had employed people from £100. 4 months.
That's a big difference.
I mean, this is money that I didn't even have myself. I mean, looking at the 4 or 5 million shillings that was already coming in, the person working like tirelessly, endlessly, this immediately made a difference. And it started now reflecting back. Children were able to go to school. Just like a difference, because you could have got his money and this money and just took someone to a restaurant for a meal. You take them to Cafe Javas, you pay 120,000. They go back home and then they start all over tomorrow. Money that
just before we move on to, I can see Mr. Makumbi's on. There is a project which some people may fear to mention, and this is the education of the girl child. And we know that once they reach a certain age, they start their monthly periods. But because of poverty, they cannot afford the sanitary towels. So they miss the school for those 3 or 4 days, depending on how long they're. So those kind of projects, I know people fear to mention it because of the taboo that we attach to the menstrual cycle and women's cycle. But this is something which you can commit to, because how many girls go through their period in a month in a school? And just commit to the school and say, this is my contribution for these girls so that they can come to school day in and day out through the month and they don't miss out. So it's a little project, but it goes a long way because you are educating the girl child at the end of the day. Brother Makumbi, unmute yourself, please.
What's wrong with this technology?
No, you are unmuted.
I think it's.
I think. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
I think Mr. Kayira has been talking about this money gives to these small boys, whatever it is. On the village, I gave 100,000 shillings to a lady who had the family, and she started from that, and she's making a very big business out of that. However small it is, to them, they are really in a very big need. And I think what I would like to remind our friends, where Ramadan is coming, really poverty is too much here. If we have gotten the money around, try to sponsor some of those mosques. People are going for fasting, but they've got nothing to eat. So however small it is, it makes a change and makes a difference. However, we are having a mosque at Busabara, which we are building. If anybody has got any loose change, is welcome to support us. If it brings the money will be really accountable and we'll have accountability. But the other thing we've been talking about, really, I haven't heard about the Quran sheets in Kampala, whereby cabinet ministers are really involved in all those things. So we condemn. However, we talk about our sheikhs and their blah blah that they have been squandering the government money or the mosque money. It's chronicle here. Anybody given an opportunity, you try to take it. However, we talk about sheikhs. Haven't seen the scandal that have been going around the Church of Uganda as people are selling their lands. The disease has spread to all religions. But for us, we become too critical about Muslims because that's what we specialize in. That is a common things here. Every religious facility has been sort of. Be Muslims, Christian, Catholics, they are fading away. Land grabbing is an issue over here. So nothing is safe at the moment. So we shouldn't crucify the Muslims that we are the bad ones. Even the other sector, they are worse than ours.
Thank you very much, Brother Makumbi. It's now 3 minutes past 10 o'clock here in the United Kingdom. I don't know what time it's there, Sheikh Kassim.
It's 4 minutes past 1 o'clock. It's pretty late.
Right. So yes. We'll put it to the vote again. All we need is 2 votes to extend it by 30 minutes because we started late. And if we can see hands raised, at least 2 hands raised in the next 3 minutes, then we'll extend it by 30 minutes. I know people are tired, but Ramadan is coming. We need to gear up and help the community. While I'm waiting for the hands up, a brother approached me and said he's starting the project of feeding Muslims during this month of Ramadan. And all he's asking for is a kilo of meat as a contribution daily, and he'll match that kilo of meat for.
Talking about Ramadan, I want to give one advice to the brothers here, because this one I've learned it through experience, and I've made it a ruling. I'm not going to repeat that mistake again.
Okay.
The business of hosting or dedicating yourself to spending money on feeding people in this country, especially in your home, are inviting Brother Jadin, Brother Kassim, Kayira, and the like.
Yeah.
There's a time I called people I wanted to host them for iftar. I went ahead and spent £500-600. Then only 20% of the people I invited showed up. And even these who came, they never ate the food. And I was seated there and I was thinking, if I had sent this 2 million shillings to my local masjid back home to buy ugali and milk and sugar and it goes to the locals who are fasting there, it makes much difference than. So I'm not discouraging other people, but to me, my experience has been worse here. People will come, they will choose in the city nyama. I don't eat chicken with soup. I want dried chicken, all this kind of stuff.
No, Brother Sowedi, I think you got me wrong. It's not for feeding families here in the UK.
No. What I'm trying to say is,
this is for a village I've never heard of. Some village called Nakibizi or something like that.
I'm now encouraging them to put money in your cause. Take money to Africa. Go and Kusigula people in Africa. Here, Kassim Kayira will come and send the.
And it doesn't take sugar.
I want to buy liver. I don't. These things are no.
Well, Jadane, I was just trying to see if Aisha could speak. We've not had many ladies on. We've had Mariam, Hajat Sarah. We've not had many ladies on. I would like to hear from ZN and Aisha. Aisha, please, you want to unmute yourself, please? We'd like to hear from you. Giving back home, in an act of charity that you've done back home. I'm sure there is one.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi
Wa
wabarakatuh.
alaikum
Wa
salam
alaikum
wa
salam wa
rahmatullah.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for coming on.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Yes.
evening.
Like you said, small ones,
Mhm.
but you've got me to reflect, actually, to look back and what I've done, and very interesting conversation I've had there, and it just reminded me of one person who was talking about a sheikh who was dressed. I think it was you, Sheikh Kayira.
Yes.
A sheikh who was in kind of torn kanzus.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
I have where my mom comes from. There is a mosque. I happen to go. You know, when you're kind of thinking, what can I do? What can I do? I have to contribute. So I happen to go back home to see, I always go and pray for my mom down there, where we buried her. So I happened to pass a mosque, and I normally take charity clothes or my children's clothes back home, and whatever I get hands on, I take back and give away. So I met the sheikh of the village, and I went to visit. I paid a visit to the mosque, to the local mosque, and I noticed that the sheikh had about she's the sheikh for the village, but to my sudden, to my I don't know how to say it. Nayenga Yankwasenaku, when I found the state in which I found him, actually with the family, and he's the main sheikh for the whole mosque. So that brought me to think that I should actually be contributing, at least where I can. I should start taking my children's clothes and other clothes to give it to them. So every year I send back clothes and bed sheets and whatever I get hold on from home, I collect from my children, and whatever we collect here, I send back to him. And also I make sure that at least every Ramadan, whatever it comes, or every Eid, I make sure that there is something for them to feed on during Ramadan time. So I make sure that every Ramadan time I do send food for them.
If I can interrupt you there, Sister Aisha, if you look at the logistics of sending clothes, I don't know how much clothes you take, but if you take, for example, a suitcase of clothes, that's going to be like 20, 30 kilos. And if you convert that in monetary terms, wouldn't it go further if you sent them that money and they went and bought clothes in the second-hand market in Uganda?
Actually, you're right. You're very right. Because of recent, I noticed that if I take this clothes via Salabed, however much it takes, because it's a lot, I end up paying something like 200 pounds. So of late, I just thought of it. I said, maybe I should actually stop sending this because it is costly, even if it goes by sea, because I collect for the whole year. You find that there is a lot to take, and you find that it is costing me a lot. But at the same time, I don't like to
waste.
Yes, to waste these clothes and give them away to the charity. Sometimes you find things are just thrown out, you put them to the charity shop here, and it's not worth it. So I hadn't thought of that, but you have a good idea. It is costly.
Yeah,
But maybe that is something.
downtown Kampala, you can that money, as Brother Jibin put it, you can convert it into clothing in downtown Kampala.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they'll buy what they actually feel fits them, other than accepting you might send a yellow shirt when somebody has got a taste for blue shirt, something like that. So the money, you'll be killing two birds with one stone, the logistics part of it, and then also you are giving them choice and the power to choose for themselves. But again, it can be diverted by parents because of feeding, because feeding takes priority and precedence in Africa. So it's a gamble which you need to take, but that's a very good little charity which you are doing some good for the people back home. We've got a few minutes to go, and I can see Mariam from Texas. Mariam, Texas, can you unmute yourself and give us your experience, please? Mariam is not forthcoming. We've got iPhone, whoever you are, can you unmute yourself and give us your experience, give us some ideas on how we can help and make a contribution back home.
Looks like we are dragging it now.
I think people are getting shy. So I will ask you, Brother Kassim, to give us a summary of what we've been discussing and what the way forward is. We have looked at different charities ranging from water to medicines to used clothes and things like that, helping with the imams. And we've also looked at the challenges of making it an official charity, the bottlenecks because of past experiences. What is your reflection in all this?
Well, 14 minutes past 1 o'clock here in Uganda. I'm thinking the takeaway tonight is some people, I'm sure, have had a change of heart. They came into the conversation not knowing what to expect, but listening and hearing the kind of experiences that people have had coming from the little things that people think they have done makes a huge, huge difference. I'll just continue to emphasize the words of the Prophet ﷺ when he says, "La tahqiranna min al-ma'rufi shay'an." Do not ignore even the smallest of good things. Every little thing will have a positive impact. It might not be now, it might be in the medium term, it might be in the long term, but it will definitely do something. Charity should be thought about beyond just even a good word. Sometimes there are people who have gone out into the communities and went to teach people how to live, for example, a decent life. There's something I found very interesting that, for example, where I am now, ZN says they can't speak. I think they are at work. Why not actually reflect their point while I summarize my point? It says, mine has been paying school fees for children. I have about 7 children so far, and I will try to put them in the best schools. And alhamdulillah, the first 2 I had started with are now about to complete. And now 3 are in secondary school, starting up in primary school. Barakallahu fikum. These are the little. This is not even a little thing. This is a big thing. That's a lot of money involved in the process. But what I was saying was finding avenues in which we can improve our lives, the lives of our people. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about people going out, He says, فَلَوْلَا نَفَرٌ مِّن كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ يتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about not everybody should leave a village. Not everybody can actually even leave a village. But let there be a small group of those that will leave the village. They go out and try and prosper, and through their prosperity come back and warn their people, improve the lives of their people, change the lifestyle of their people. It is quite amazing. You get into places, for example, where you have so many farms. I'm between so many farms. You get to a farm and someone has about 300 heads of cattle, but the person is still going into the bushes to look for firewood. The ladies are suffering from cancer because of blowing in the smoke that is coming in from the kitchen. And yet, just with 2 cows settled in a confined space can produce biogas that is not only adequate to cook, but can also light a home.
Yeah.
This person has 300 cows and has no idea about that. Still bathing cold water because, you know, the fire has gone dead, having to suffer through the cold, you know, but that just with a little knowledge of how to get a biogas, which costs 2.3 million. That is just the price of one cow.
Yeah.
But the person feels like by getting rid of this one cow, they are almost losing a heart. They would rather look at the cow sort of dying. Getting a borehole, for example, on a farm or water a well on a farm costs 20 million. 20 million would be about 5 cows. This person has 100 cows, and to sacrifice 5 cows to protect the 95 cows becomes a problem. So it's all about the mindset that when we get into this, the whole idea now is you start thinking outside the box. Let's create these things that are going to create impact. I went to the village, I sat with, you know, fellow farmers, rich guys who are there, rich in the word, but looking at their kitchens and seeing the smoke that was billowing from there. The moment I spoke about biogas, it was like I had been revealed from heaven. I'd just been brought the first time. And these are people who are there, who you assume should actually be knowing it. Just with that little knowledge, it starts making a difference with all the different options that come in. Some places are such that they are endowed. Someone has 100 cows. That's enough gas that could actually power about 20, 30 homes in a locality, given the usage that is there. Now, so we need to start thinking about the charity can just even be in information sharing, you know, leave alone even the money or whatever. But Allah has taken us out, and by taking us out, He's given us a priority, an opportunity that many of these people who have been left back do not have. So everything that we do, let's do the near. Let's put the good intentions. Let's work to see how we can actually improve our communities. Let's create transparency. Let's create systems, put systems in place that would allow things to actually flow well. And who knows, inshallah, we shall look back 50 years from now and say, Alhamdulillah, we did what we did when we did it. I can only thank you very much, Bwana Jaden, and all the viewers and listeners who are on tonight in the conversation that has been about giving back. Well, it's 19 minutes past 1 o'clock here. It's 19 minutes past 10 o'clock in the United Kingdom. Should be late afternoon in the United States as well. This was Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, with a special presence of Jaden. And I thank you all for having been part of this conversation. I can only wish you a very good night wherever you are. And inshallah, see you next Tuesday with another interesting program on Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We were live on 75 Dhabi Radio. We were live on Ummah Connected on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom, where this conversation now ends. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a very good night.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I happen to have the button to end the program. So I'll do the honors if you're all ready. Good night.
Good night.